Our next talk is entitled Updates on Hemophilia Gene Therapy, Clinical Trials in Canada. And our speaker today is Dr. ALFONSO IORIO from Hamilton Health Sciences Corporation Center. So we're looking forward to your update.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. I don't have a disclosure slide, but I still have two disclosures. And one is that I believe this quick talk comes toward the end of this symposium because I'm going into the nitty-gritty of, delivering gene therapy, even if as part of a clinical trial that will lead into the discussion. And the second reason, I guess, is to give you a sense of what can happen to a exceptionally musical and pleasant to listen to language when it's spoken by Brits, going through Canadians, and then, you'll judge what will happen now. Anyways, said that, I really can share, I share the dream, maybe not for 30 years, but for long, about gene therapy coming to fruition, coming to, meet a patient who received gene therapy in our daily life. Now, I don't regret having said that from the podium as David said he does, because I was actually on the other side. I was listening to David, and I was saying, well, okay, maybe this is coming. But I was busy doing other stuff. So I was here in Canada, and CBDR needed to be set up, and then I got into WOPS and launching it, and it took a while to have it up and running. Then Mark Skinner and Probe and David, and I felt that my spot was really helping with, and we will come back on this tomorrow for those that will be there, was on generating evidence. And I thought, well, if there's a way I can help with preparing for gene therapy, is making sure that we have all those measures that will be needed when gene therapy comes to make it available, and CORIM project and so on. So I was looking at gene therapy, but not planning to do anything myself personally. Then something happened, and the something was Jerry. I don't know if I ever told Jerry this, but Jerry was instrumental in many steps in my life, but that time he invited me for a celebration of an anniversary of the center in Toronto, and I gave a talk on registries, and Kathy I gave a talk on gene therapy, and I was fascinated, and I realized that Jerry was sending Canadian patients to Philly to be treated. And he said, well, I had a fresh Canadian passport with me. I got it a few weeks before. And I said, well, I had to do something for this country. By the way, here is where I go back to my joke, some of you may know Luis Manuel Miranda video, Immigrants Get Things Done. Well, That's why I'm here. So he said, well, we should be able to do this in Canada. There should not be need to, ask help to the cousin down south of the border. And that's actually what we did. It took a while, and I really want to keep this talk short, but we may discuss later on all together. It took about 18 months to set up the center in Hamilton to be able to deliver hemophilia gene therapy as part of clinical trials. And it was really going through the hurdles of having the pharmacy on board and finding a space and having all the approvals. And it took forever to go through infectious disease checking on the safety of the procedure and so on. But then we finally got to be able to do. And in terms of opportunities for gene therapy in Canada, we have treated both hemophilia A and B patients. Now, there's nothing for you to learn on these slides, really. really the column you want to look at is the third one, where there are the number of patients we were able to treat. The first trial reported on this table is a hemophilia B gene therapy trial where we enrolled 3. The trial is still active because we are following up the patient, but it's actually enrollment is closed and the trial is being written up. So unfortunately I cannot give you any detail, and I don't think that's what matters. The results are positive, are being written up, should be hopefully published soon. The following trial is a trial in hemophilia A, and that was a bit of a stop and go a few times, and actually is now a bit more complicated than we expected. It requires overnight stay of the patient. So yes, sometimes David is right, it's an half an hour infusion. Some other time the infusion may be 1 hour and the observation time maybe go overnight. Hopefully that's only for the trial, is not for real life later, but is there. The last trial we have active is again offered to hemophilia B patient, is a variation in amendment of the trial that was that stopped enrollment and is only doing follow-up with higher dose. The first, the Pfizer 102 is tested a relatively low dose with persistent, stable, positive result, but looking at what else was going on, the company decided to dose escalate, and there's now another arm going on. So these 3 are ongoing. I believe there's one single other center. I have a slide in 3 slides from here, my last one, reporting some thought about other opportunities in Canada. As far as I know, there's one other patient treated in Canada, treated actually last week in Montreal. And I would say 90% hemophilia A. Now, there are upcoming studies. So I believe it's important if we want to explore to the fullest hemophilia treatment with gene therapy in Canada, to have studies ongoing here. You have seen what happened with Hemlibra, and you know what usually happens. What usually happens is that we have to wait for much longer than other countries in getting access to treatment. And there are many reasons. Some do not depend on research, some depends on, our approval and reimbursement process, our willingness to pay, our numbers, because our population are not very large. However, in my experience working with CADETH, both on the Hemlibra approval and other rare disease treatment, is that availability of Canadian data helps a lot. And also existence of Canadian patient treated helps a lot, because it makes a compelling case that that treatment is actually applicable in Canada and was applied in Canada. So I believe that one of the reasons we have brought, and we are trying to bring all these trials to Hamilton, is to increase the chances for the country to get early on, before the 75 years that Luke was mentioning, access to this treatment to those willing to have it. The second reason is that someone may want to have it now, and there's no other option. And this now is an extended concept of now that can go on for, hopefully not too many years, but well may go on for a few years yet, before this will be fruitful, available to patients as a standard treatment. So for those who really sees their moment being now, the only opportunity is enrolling in gene therapy and contributing at the same time to increase or decrease, but to expand our knowledge on on what's available. So the trials that we are working on making available are a trial design after the OPB, so the CSL product that is actually already approved in US, has shown to work, and I'm not going into detail, in patients with low titer of anti-AAV antibodies, and FDA requested to provide more evidence of what happened when you treat patients with antibodies. And the trial offers an opportunity to all those patients that can get gene therapy at the moment having anti-AAV antibodies. And the trial is being set up while we speak, and hopefully will come to Canada as well. Actually, there's a mistake. Regeneron is hemophilia B and Spark is hemophilia A. And those two trials are, one is a lead-in phase, so patients are enrolled and observed for the 6 months needed before getting treated. And the last one is, again, a dose variation of the original Spark trial, and is actually, there was a ternus, a lead-in phase, and now the patients are phased out of the lead-in and will enroll in this trial that is the Roche product. We even have a closed study that was a previous phase of the hemophilia A Spark molecule and stopped at the dose, and the patients are still followed up, but the study is concluded. So I promise you, and this is my last slide, that I tried to collect, since my title was what are the options for Canadian patients willing to enroll in gene therapy trial in hemophilia. So in the West, Vancouver and Edmonton, there's willingness to open center. Actually, there was a lead-in phase, if you listen, for hemophilia B, but didn't get to treat patient yet. So it's very likely will be needed because, Canada is pretty wide. And even if we have treated patient from Toronto, we have treated patient from London, the way it goes is that really Jerry joins us the day of treatment. I was laughing when Luke was saying, I got my treatment in a standard room. And I said, yes, it's a standard room. That's the same feeling I had as a doctor. It's a standard room where I usually see outpatient with thrombosis. There's a difference, though. Usually when I get into an hospital room as a doctor, the ratio is one doctor, 4 patients. While if you get in a room where a patient receives gene therapy, usually there are 15 doctors, nurses, and one patient. And the other difference is that even if it's very safe, and usually that patient, yes, is a person living with hemophilia, but is in a good hemophilia day. Usually there's no active bleeding and is a quiet conversation. We are all dressed up like if there was a nuclear problem at 3 miles away, and that gives you a sense of what are we risking here, and that's not completely clear to me. And so it's possible for a patient to travel, get their treatment, go back home, and receive, do all the follow-up in their center. And might be a model we will use in Canada. I don't know if it can serve the entire country. The same is for what I've been told from Alberta. They're unsure if it's worth setting up a facility. It's not very difficult, but it takes a lot of time. I know that Ottawa, and Roy's here and he can speak for himself, they were pre-selected for the hemophilia B gene therapy. The trial didn't go on, but they could start anytime. So there will be opportunities for enrollment in a clinical trial, and they will come up soon. And I think that the rest we can discuss later on. Yes, good.